This episode is sponsored by the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. July's featured entertainment includes Mammoth WVH on the 19th and Danae Hayes on the 20th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Also enjoy complimentary beverages when playing with your Penn Play card. Visit the Penn Play Center to sign up. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Comedian Chris Kattan brings his stand-up tour to Magooby's Joke House in Timonium, Maryland this Friday and Saturday. He joined me to preview the show as well as reflect on his iconic characters from Saturday Night Live, from Mr. Peepers to Mango, A Night at the Roxbury to more cowbell. Hey, Chris Kattan, hey, thank you so much for joining us on WTOP in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being on the show. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, we're talking to you because you are coming to Magooby's Joke House in Timonium, Maryland, this Friday, July 5th, and this Saturday, July 6th. It was voted Baltimore's #1 comedy club for many, many years by Baltimore City Paper, back when that was still being published. But it's a cool spot. So where are we in the tour? Are we towards the front, or have you been touring the whole country on this thing?
We've been touring, throughout the country. We're about the beginning leg, but I've been touring for the last 9 years. It's a relatively new material and a mix of old material. So, it should be. It'll be a great show. It's a good mix of all those elements, as they would say.
Yeah, and I don't want to burn any specific punchlines, but is there a general way we could, what sort of topics or themes do you hit on? Is it like current event stuff? Is it anything political? Is it like observations from your personal life, or what is it?
I thought the debate was interesting and funny enough to watch. So I don't think there's not a lot of humor there.
Yeah.
No, I steer clear of politics. And I like to like more self-deprecative humor, and I like things that just make me laugh and hopefully make the audience laugh. And I love incorporating the audience as well. I love using the audience to be, part of the act, and I use them on stage as well sometimes. So it's a different experience. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. You know what you could do? I just realized Timonium is right near Towson University, where Amy Schumer went. So you could, if you, I don't know, fellow comedian, you could call her up and get some advice on what works on those streets.
Yeah, I don't know if she would have that answer. I doubt it. But
that's great.
I say, hey, Amy, do you have the answers on what works on the streets?
I don't know if comedians do that, where I doubt you're touring so many towns, you probably don't even have time to look up which comedians are from which towns and get their tips. So probably don't have time for that.
I try to do some research about the city and the town. Of course, it's a very historical town where I'm heading to. So, and it's I'm going to spend. We're actually going to go. I'm going to go out there with my fiance a day or two early, because it is the 4th of July prior to the stand-up date. So we're going to spend a little 4th of July out there.
Yeah, I mean, Fort McHenry, right where the national anthem was written, right around there in Baltimore. And I don't know if you get in any early, you could come check out the big, Capitol 4th fireworks on the 4th down in here in D.C. I don't know when you get in, but all over the area, it's very historic this time of year. So yeah, you picked a good time to come to Maryland.
That's great. That's good to know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's we're talking about, our city, but I want to know where you grew up. I guess you were born in 1970. I know you mostly grew up in Washington State, but when I saw that you were born in Culver City in LA, I had to ask, because I went out there to cover the Oscars a couple times. And of course, I took an impromptu, let's call it a self-guided tour. I wasn't really, didn't have a ticket, but I wandered around Culver Studios there, where I know, gosh, Selznick did Gone with the Wind and Rebecca back in the 30s.
Oh, wow. The real tour, like the real classics, like the old David O. Selznick building where they shot the big house that you probably were looking at that was part of the tour was
Yeah.
using Gone with the Wind,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was a big landmark. So you got to see the real thing. That's pretty cool that you got to go on that tour.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
for sure.
and it wasn't really a tour. I just kind of wandered wandered around.
Yeah,
And then I get Desilu. Became Desilu, right? For I Love Lucy in like the 50s. Like that's so much. And I think Andy Griffith
I
might have been shot there. It was a big
I
deal.
believe so. I believe
Yeah.
so. I don't know what it is now. All the studios changed. I mean, there's
Yeah.
another studio in Studio City that turned into the MTM, which is Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
That became the Mary Tyler Moore Studio for a while.
Yeah.
And so they undergo different changes throughout the years, different decades. And but that's really cool that you got to see part of that history. That's very unique and pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Sony. Well, Sony's there now too, right? Like you're saying, they used to be That's where they
Yeah,
shot Wizard of Oz when it was MGM and all that stuff. And then there's like the Culver
yeah.
Hotel down the street where a bunch of the Munchkins stayed, apparently. So lots of history.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're tangenting, but the whole reason I brought it up was because that's where you were born. I know your dad was like a member of the Groundlings, which you would later get your start in there, the comedy troupe in LA. So if you moved to Washington with mom, how did you hook back up in dad's comedy network in LA? I want to know how you got in the Groundlings.
Well, my dad was one of the founders of the Groundlings back in 1975, and he used to take me to the rehearsals and to the classes, and of course to the actual shows on the weekend. So I got to see him perform, and that was a real treat. That was really something special to see, especially at my age. Age 7. Like age 6, age 5. I got to see him, perform with people like Paul Rubens, creating Pee Wee Herman and Phil Hartman and John Lovitz and that group before I ever even had the dream of wanting to be a groundling. So, but that's why I came up with wanting to be a groundling. If it weren't for my dad, I'd never really pursued wanting to be a comedian. So it's all to my dad. So God bless his soul.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we just lost him a couple years ago, and he was I think he voiced one of the Smurfs. A lot of us grew up not even knowing that was your dad. But that's really cool. You
He
got to,
did, yeah.
yeah, that's cool. You got to see Pee Wee Herman and all, all this, sort of before you joined the group. That's fantastic. And wait, and so who was in when by the time you got there? Who was in the Groundlings with you?
Well, the group that I was in with was our group was quite a few people. Mike McDonald from Mad TV, who
Yeah,
played that character Stewart.
yeah, of course.
Sherry O'Terry, Will Ferrell, and Jennifer Coolidge were the main people in our group.
Man, some legends, and Michael McDonald was really really funny on Mad TV, and I think he was in gosh, wasn't he also in Austin Powers? He was the guy that's like stop to the car, and even though it's like moving like 2 miles an hour.
I think so. I think he
Yeah,
was. Yeah.
yeah,
It's hard to remember, but yeah, I think he
yeah.
was.
Anyway, a lot of the folks you mentioned went on to do big things, including SNL, like yourself. So, is that what brought you to New York? Was auditioning for SNL, or had you already made the jump to the East Coast when you auditioned?
No, I never had been to New York in my life. So the first time I ever set foot on the grounds of New York was the day that I auditioned for Saturday Night Live.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. Do you remember what your audition was? What did you eat an apple like Mr. Peepers from the beginning, or what?
I did do Mr. Peepers with a boom box that narrated what I was doing. So I I crouched on a stool and I ate an apple and spit it out, and did the whole thing, and did a few other characters. I did a character that was close to the Roxbury guy. It was a guy who was at a couch at a party, and he was dancing with the couch, and because you're the only one on stage, so I try to treat objects like other people a little bit
Yeah.
as much as I could, and then I did an impression of Christian Slater interviewing a vampire. That was the only impression I had at the time, from the scene interview with the vampire, and that was I said, "So you're a vampire? Well, the story you're telling me is amazing. It's incredible." So that was my impression. It
That's
wasn't
great.
used in any sort of at all. There was
Yeah.
no need, but that was the impression that I ended up doing.
That's well, sounds like a home run of an audition because they hired you and you were there from what 96 to 2003. So many memorable characters, like you mentioned. Real quick, doubling back to Mr. Peepers, really quick, in case our listeners don't remember, it's like a what, almost like a feral child eating apples and spitting them out and going bah bah. It was hilarious. I want to ask, do you
Yeah.
remember the episode when before he became like the biggest Hollywood star when he was still a wrestler? The Rock came on doing that with you. Any fun memories of watching The Rock imitate your character?
Oh yeah, he was great. He was such a sport. I mean, the guy is massive, and he was just like the fact that he had any interest in doing that character was mind-boggling. Because it's such a crazy character, and it's just so obnoxious of a character. It just spits apple, and it's a complete mess of the character, and it's just fascinating that someone like The Rock would want to do it, and he did it, and it became part of SNL, SNL history.
Absolutely. I think that moment probably was his official pivot from the wrestling ring to Hollywood was showing he can
Well,
hang
I
with you
don't know about
comedians.
that.
I'm
I
saying it,
don't, I
baby.
don't, I don't think it went from wrestling to Mr. Peepers.
That's great.
I think a lot of other things happened.
Yeah, chewing up and spitting out opponents, maybe. But all
Hmm.
right, well, tell me about creating Mango in that tight pink shirt, a hilarious character. Did I read it was inspired by like Marlene Dietrich and Blue Angel? I just revisited that movie the other day, 1930 German classic by Joseph von
Oh, you
Sternberg.
did, huh? Well, Mango was based on a stripper that mesmerized people that would come visit him and make people crazy with his incredible power that he had as a dancer, and that's what was that was part of the magic of Mango. It was a really silly character, and but people seemed to like it, so it became reoccurring. And but that's what he does. He worked at a strip club, and he always just kept playing victim, and all sexes and all different types of people loved Mango. They fell in love with Mango, and no one could understand why, because he really wasn't that appealing at all. He
You
was more obnoxious, if anything.
Oh, you had a knack for creating so many characters, and you mentioned the Night at the Roxbury guys, the Batabi brothers. You and Will Ferrell, head bobbing to "What Is Love" by Hadaway. I
Yeah.
loved when Jim Carrey came and it was the three of you guys because that guy could move his face and body around probably like none other. But it was so huge that you made it into a movie in '98. Do you have any residual neck damage from that? Is your head like a permanent bob sometimes now?
No, it's not in a permanent bop. It's fine. I can still bop my head if need be. So if you were to request for me to do it at a kid's birthday party or try to get attention at a wedding or something like that, I could probably do it pretty easily.
Yeah. Is there like is it like Pavlov's dogs or you know what I mean? Or is it Pavlovian? If you ever walk into a club or a restaurant and you hear that music, even if it's at the grocery store, if that comes on, is it like a switch that flips in your brain and you just have to do it or can you control yourself?
No, I don't. No, I'd rather not do it. That would cause a lot of attention. That's for sure. So I steer clear of it.
It was
Yeah, I
hilarious.
try to avoid places that play it. Sometimes I go to a restaurant and they'll start playing the music, and you're like, I just know that it was some waiter or somebody in the staff decided to play this song because I'm eating at the restaurant and they thought it was really funny to do that, and so that does do occur though. That happens a lot. But
That can't be a
I do
coincidence.
talk. Yeah, it's not just a coincidence. But I do that. I do talk a lot about the origin of the characters on Saturday Night Live and on the stand-up show that you'll be seeing this weekend. I have a lot of new material, and yeah, it should be a great weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing all the history around there.
Oh, it's awesome. Final seconds before you go. I do want to ask. I have to ask about the more cowbell thing because it was you and Chris Parnell and Jimmy Fallon and Horatio Sands, and of course Will Ferrell with his belly hanging out, Christopher Walken, the whole
Yeah,
deal.
and
One of the most iconic.
don't forget Jimmy Fallon too was
Yeah,
the drummer.
Yeah, who had probably the hardest time keeping a straight face during that thing. But
Yeah.
just where there's no way when you're doing it that you would know it would become one of the top SNL sketches of all time, one of the most quoted ever. It was just hilarious. But like as you're filming it, as you guys are breaking a smile and busting out and listening to that, like could you kind of sense in the moment like there was some weird magnetic energy that was happening? Like, can you kind of feel you're making history in a moment like that?
No, we had no idea. I don't think anyone did. I think we were just in the moment. We were doing what we should be doing, and that is performing in a sketch and just being and doing our roles as scripted. And we were just doing the scene, and we have no sense of foreshadowing or have a sense of we're not fortune tellers that this is going to be a big hit at all. There's no way to do that. So we just found out way later that it became so popular and the more cowbell. I heard that Christopher Walken actually isn't very fond of being told to say more cowbell. I got to have more cowbell. I heard he doesn't like saying that a lot.
Well, it's probably like you with the "What Is Love." It's like you've probably heard it so many times over the years. It's like, all right, ask me about something else. Ask me about The Middle or
Yeah.
Sharknado 5 or Leo or something.
Yeah, there's better choices than Sharknado 5, that's for sure.
You've done so much over the years. Seriously, everyone come out to Magooby's Joke House in Timonium this Friday and Saturday, and you'll hear all these SNL stories and so much more and stand-up material with the hilariously talented Chris Kattan. I really, really appreciate you joining us. I think Lil Rel Howery's coming to that same spot like a couple weeks after you. Remember in Get Out? He was like the sidekick, the comic relief in Get Out, Lil Rel Howery.
Oh,
yeah,
oh my God, he's going to be there? Wow.
Yeah, he's coming the same month as you, so they get some cool acts in there. So
that sounds like it. What an honor! That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, speaking of honor, what an honor to talk with you. You know, I grew up watching all your stuff, so you're like the soundtrack of visual soundtrack of of my life and a lot of us.
Oh,
so
well, thank you.
I appreciate you joining us.
That means a lot. Of course, buddy, and I hope to see you there. And it's going to be a great weekend, and everybody who needs something to do this weekend, it's 4th of July weekend, so treat it like a vacation and go out, have some fun, have some drinks, and bring a date or bring your wife or bring a friend or bring whatever, but you'll have a blast. So please do come to the show. You'll have a great time.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. And by the way, you had no idea, but I've been conducting this whole thing with friggin' strep throat as well. So I'm powering through like Michael Jordan in the flu game.
It's come across unnoticeable, so nothing to report here.
I hope I didn't spread it through the phone to you.
Yeah.
No, you were awesome. Hey, I appreciate you doing this.
Of course. Anytime.
All right. Chris Kattan, everybody.
All right, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, take care. Thanks a lot, man.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.